Hello everyone, Captain Miles Shepard, Air Force Guard, and we're going to be talking about Right Start Brief best practices here for the next few minutes. So what are we going to talk about? The agenda, we're going to start off with why do we have a Right Start Brief? I'm going to talk about some specific topics to address in the Right Start Briefs. And the main thing we're going to go through is an example Right Start Brief from an IRT project in 2019. We're going to talk about what to do after the brief and then field any questions. Why do we do a Right Start Brief? Well, to be short, Right Start Brief speed up the learning curve. We've only got 2 weeks per rotation, usually, to do the work and to get folks up to speed. We got to get them up to speed quick as possible. This helps to do that. It also removes some of the uncertainty of a new mission and location. Things are different everywhere you go. Building codes are different everywhere you go. Culture is different everywhere you go. And this will kind of alleviate any of those concerns over uncertainties. Also helps with that learning curve. And then lastly, we set expectations. How much time are you going to have off? What's the food going to be like? Here's what you're supposed to do and here's what you don't do. We shouldn't have to tell folks that no, you can't go to the smoke shop down the street. They should know better, but you got to tell them up front. So some specific topics to address when you're creating your Right Start Brief. Well, this is an IRT project. What is IRT? What does it stand for? A lot of folks have never heard of IRT before. This isn't just another project. This is a innovative readiness project. And what does that mean and what does that entail? Part of talking about that is also who is our community partner. We want to talk to, this is our community partner. We want to give them, our community partner, a chance to address each duration. And it's you can't understate the importance of that community partnership. Without a community partner, the project fails. So they're a very, very important part of our IRT process. We're going to talk about important points of contact. Whenever you got a question, you're in a new place, you got questions, you need to know who to go to. So we're going to address POCs. We're going to talk about where we are, location, and if the bed down location is different than the duty location. We're going to talk about duty day, provide a sample schedule, and then talk about some more of the details in these Right Start briefings, such as food, transportation, medical, MWR, etc. So our example Right Start brief is going to be from Camp Palmalu 2019. This is verbatim the Right Start brief that was given there. Welcome to Hawaii, if only. So their agenda in 2019, this brief was IRT overview, like we talked about. Let the community partner, Girl Scouts in this case, present, tell a little bit about them, a little bit about their camp and history of the camp and what their vision is for the camp, that our military folks are going to be part of that vision. Then we're going to get into the military side, the Right Start brief, and then, of course, give people a chance to field questions. So this was prepared by Lieutenant Amelia Brooks. It's important to provide the irt.defense.gov website to each person participating. It's a great resource for anything and everything IRT, and it's neat to be able to tell your family about it. There's photos there, there's hashtags there. Some photos are posted on DVids, and it's always nice to have something to show your kids, your spouse, your parents about, hey, here's what I did these 2 weeks. Here's how I impacted our community. Here's how I made it better. And here's a news article. So it's a neat resource. Make sure you provide this website to everyone participating. This is a little bit of background on IRT. Again, most folks have probably not participated in an IRT program. And this just provides some of the background to that. A little more background to the IRT program for folks that are participating. They may not know that it's more than just civil engineering. There's also medical, there's communications, there's services opportunities, cyber opportunities in this IRT program. It's more than just engineering. This slide really gives you an opportunity to, again, talk about the community partnership we have. As you can kind of see, the military basically brings personnel and equipment and tools, but we depend heavily on our community partner for this project to go right. They provide venue, they provide some volunteers depending on the project, and the big thing they provide are materials, in addition to drawings and coordinating permits and coordinating specific contractors, perhaps electrical and mechanical contractors, to work under their license. I got a foot stomp it here. The community is a true partnership with the community, and that's y'all's responsibility as project managers to foster and develop that trust with our community partner, that respect and that communication with our community partner, so that these projects can be a success for everyone. And you're the most important part of that relationship. Here's a sample overall timeline, again, for those participating, roughly 25 months start to finish. Y'all can talk about it a little more when you're presenting this to your troops. FY 2019, that's when this was created. This presentation was created, and it shows all the IRT projects across the United States, to include, in this case, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and Alaska. A little more details on IRT for those folks that aren't familiar with it. And the real thing to foot stomp as well is that the mission essential skills in complex environments, it's not going out back and wiring some wires together and cutting them apart and wiring them together again. You're pulling wires, coordinating with plumbing, coordinates with structures, coordinates with heavy equipment operators. You've got HVAC, and depending on where you're at, it really is a lot of mission essential skills, complex environments. And it provides, I'd foot stomp as well, the job satisfaction and spirit of corps. That's why most of us join the Guard and Reserves, is we want to make a difference in our community. Well, this is the opportunity to make a long-lasting impact in a community. And it's worth talking about some of the restrictions as well. Some people might say, hey, when you're talking about this, they might say, hey, I'd love to do this in my community. Well, there are some restrictions. Particularly, I'll talk about one, is the mission essential military training requirement. It has to accomplish military training. IRT does, and you'll probably hear this in other briefings, but I think it's worth talking about in the Right Start briefing to other folks. Is, for example, painting and landscaping are not mission essential CE training. So we try and stay away from those. Our community partners will ask that. We'll say, hey, can you finish this and paint it? Can we do some landscaping on the outside? The typical answer is no. Because it's not mission essential training. It needs to be a win-win for the military and the community, and we've got to get our folks trained up. And law enforcement as well. We can't provide law enforcement sometimes in remote situations, but we rely on the local community there, not necessarily the community partner, but the community. The Girl Scouts don't have their own law enforcement, but you do coordinate with the local municipality there and let them know we're around. A little more on IRT support, and then you give an opportunity for folks to ask questions at the end of the IRT portion. And here is where the community partner will present. In this case, again, Girl Scouts. This is an architectural rendering of the STEM Center, which IRT helped build in 2019. The Girl Scouts would be presenting these slides. They may have their own slide deck to present from in this presentation, but they should be included in the Right Start brief. Here, the Girl Scouts, I believe, played a video. There's a link. They talked about their rank structure from Daisy to Ambassador, and talked a little bit about their local area there in Palmalu. Again, another rendering they discussed. Another rendering. And so those were the slides and possibly more from our community partner. Next up is we're back to the military presenting side. Duration points of contact. We touched that at the beginning, but it's always important to have folks you can call And those folks at OIC and NCOICs, I'd encourage you to you got to put their phone numbers up there. You've got a whole lot of people depending on you, and you got to be available just about all the time. Also, SMEs, we talked about that a little bit before. For example, the electrical SME, in these IRT projects, each state's different. So we've got to operate to the laws and building codes in those states. The building codes in Hawaii are different than building codes in California, which are different than building codes in Maine, which are different building codes in Florida. We have people coming from all over the country to these areas, and we've got to maintain some continuity, which is why we have some duration staff subject matter experts. So, for example, electrical here, Tech Sergeant Snap, he would work with any local electrical contractors and electrical inspectors. Everything here is permitted, and he's learned the local codes and ensures that all the rotations are conforming to these local codes. And again, works with the inspector, make sure everything meets code. Other people to know, which is important to introduce, is our community partner points of contact. You can see that the Camp Ranger and the Girl Scouts representative are on site just about every day. They have to be on site every day to coordinate with. They can make decisions, and they're the ones that are in charge of the materials. So we coordinate closely with them, and it's important for everyone who comes on that rotation to the IRT project know that, hey, this is Girl Scout representative, no, sir or ma'am. This is another general contractor, sir or ma'am. Showing the site location. In this project, bed down was at Helamano Plantation here on the bottom of the screen, and work site was up at Camp Palmalu, top of the screen, just showing kind of orientation where you're at on the island. It's a little more overview for everyone, where they'll touch on important topics. What to do with trash on site, where are the tools, where do you park, how do we handle drinking water, alcohol, tobacco policy, etc. And these are typically, it's up to OIC, but we typically have no salute area for 05 and below on these projects. So here's an example of a kind of a frequently asked question that OIC decided to put in this briefing. The ComSat access road here is confusing to most folks. I got a lot of questions about it. So they put it in the briefing to address it up front. I'd encourage everyone who's creating this briefing to do the same. If the first or second rotation has a couple frequently asked questions or recommendations, then update your right start briefing for the future rotations. It's that easy. And it'll save you some headache and questions on down the road. Just an example, duty day, again, setting expectations up front. We don't want people to think they're going to sleep in until 8 o'clock every morning when they get there. And people want to know when breakfast, lunch, and dinner is. And then here at the bottom, this is important as well, in setting expectations. I'll kind of quote it, it's the OSC's intent to allow at least Sunday off during the middle weekend of each rotation. And I would encourage everyone to stick to that. You know, you don't want to promise Saturday, Sunday off and then get rained out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, we're going to be behind and you're not going to be able to give everyone Saturday and Sunday off. You don't want to have to take away a down day. You want to be able to give additional down days, but you sure don't want to be able to take them away or have to take them away. So at a minimum, setting expectations, promise that middle Sunday off, and that's it. Anything else will depend on weather, construction progress, etc. Uniform PPE, this is important, came down directed from OASD, Pentagon type folks. It says all airmen, but all military personnel will comply with military standards of dress and appearance and customs and courtesies, period, dot, on site. It's that simple. We are the military, we represent the military, community members will be there, press will be there. And to be blunt, everybody will comply with military standards, dress, and appearance. We hadn't had any problems in the past, in the recent past anyway, and I don't expect we'll have any problems with that later. And then your standard PPE. This is a little bit about the bed down area, and this was Helamano Plantation is where everyone bed down for this project. You want to address and confirm with the area you're staying Tobacco use, do they have a policy? Alcohol type policy, where does trash go? Can you have cookouts? You know, a lot of folks like to have grill out and cook out in the area. And then laundry, don't forget to address laundry. Food, people want to know about food. We can have hot breakfast, hot lunch, cold lunch. We're on per diem. What are we doing? So make sure to include food here. And you can see in this case, they included partial per diem here, there. So everybody knows exactly what it is up front, give them the information up front to prevent a lot of questions and a lot of research for folks. You want to address the vehicles. In this case, there were 15 passenger van, 5 6-pack trucks, 2, and 20-foot box trucks, 1. You'll notice a traffic infraction ticket there. Someone got a traffic infraction, and that is always, as always, on the member. If you get a traffic infraction, don't speed, it's illegal. Medical plans and locations, you always want to look up the closest kind of trauma centers. What's the response time of local ambulance and or fire personnel? Kind of as an aside, we always recommend to have an EMT on site if possible for each rotation. A lot of this work we do, IRT work anyway, are in remote areas where the response time could be from 15 to 30 to 45 minutes to an hour. And that's just too long. If somebody gets critical injury, we want to have EMTs there on site. So if you can bring someone and their bag, whether you got to go to the fire folks or someone happens to be EMT on their day job, but we want to have somebody there to look after our folks in case we're in a remote area. Drug and alcohol policy. Clearly, drugs will not be used or tolerated. It's pretty straightforward. And alcohol consumption is at the commander and OIC's discretion. It can be taken away if required. We hadn't had many problems with it in the past. People have been pretty good, but kind of self-managed there. And then mandatory reporting, stuff like hospitalization, arrest, etc. You want to address that in your Right Start briefing. Do's and don'ts. Some of the additional, don't steal pineapples, don't drive under the influence, don't get sunburned, and some recommendations for the local area. In this case, I recommend to wear water shoes. Also wear sunscreen, and of course, you got to let somebody know when you're leaving, sign out. And in restricted areas, you shouldn't have to tell people not to go to Pipeline Smoke Shop and High Supply Smoke Shop and Good Time Smoke Shop, but people will be curious. So it's good to tell everybody up front. Restricted areas. And then MWR opportunities. Even if you only have one Sunday off, most people haven't been to Hawaii before, or if you have a project in Guam or project in Maine, or even if the project's in Montana or Oklahoma, might not be somewhere you've been before. So it's nice to take some time to go do something and enjoy the local area. Doing that research is part of your job, and you can reach out to our community partner. They're the experts. They live there. They can provide that information to you, and you should provide that information to the rotations so that they'll have a good time and enjoy themselves. It's good for recruiting and retention. It's also good for team building. Your team functions more efficiently and at a higher state if there's trust and there's good communication in that team. That trust, communication, and bonding is built in these MWR times. So I encourage y'all to do your research and let everyone know on these rotations, the MWR opportunities. Another example of that is the luaus in Hawaii here in 2019. That's something everybody seems to like to do. And this OIC did the research and put it all up there so everybody's got, here's your options for luaus, here's how much it costs. They can make a decision and go and have a good time. So that's the end of this example briefing. I hope that y'all will remember kind of this example briefing, and heck, you can go and download it. Actually, it should be available either now or after the conference, our virtual conference, and download it to your computer and copy and paste it and make it your own for your project next year. Use it as a starting point. It's a great starting point. So we're going to talk a little bit about after the brief. The whole point of the Right Start brief is to set people up for success. And as part of that, setting folks up for success should include a site walk. You want to walk around the site with everyone, just kind of give them the nickel tour there, point out, here's where you're bedding down, here's where breakfast is going to be, here's shower latrines, here's where the tools are at, etc. You want to provide a work update brief to everyone as well that first day and let them know the current progress. Here's where we're at in the project, and here's where we're planning to be, or here's where we want to be after your rotation leaves, and here's our priorities. So you want to set that expectation up front too. Give everybody a kind of get a picture in their head of where we're going. And then lastly, you want to have a huddle with the unit leadership. You got to communicate well as the project manager with the unit leadership and keep them up to date on their own things and give them a chance to lead. You want to set the leadership up for success. And to do that, you got to keep them informed and be able to answer their questions. So do all these three things before or after the brief to help set folks up for success. So our review here, what did we talk about? We talked about why to do a Right Start brief, and it's basically to speed up that learning curve. We've only got 2 weeks to get your portion of the job done. We don't have time for a learning curve. We've got to hit the ground running, and the Right Start brief helps folks hit the ground running. We talked about topics to address in our Right Start briefs and looked at an example Right Start brief, or a really well done example Right Start brief from Camp Palmalu 2019 project. And then we talked about what to do after the brief to set the units and the rotations up for success. And that is the end of my part of the presentation. At this time, I believe we'll end the video and open it up for live questions. I appreciate y'all's time.